What's happening, guys? This is Sid with svtperformance.com, and I think I found a fairly appropriate place to pull over and share with you guys my thoughts on our latest vehicle we have in for testing. It is the always controversial 2021 Mustang Mach-E, or as I like to call it, just the Mach-E, because I'm not used to Mustangs having 4 doors, or all-wheel drive, or setting up high, or being electric. But I do have some interesting takes, I think, on this car. First thing, let me tell you this. This is probably the best car, in talking just cars, that Ford has ever built. I know it's a bold statement, but it's true. And I mean top to bottom, the way this thing drives, the interior, the build quality, the quality of the paint that's on it. Granted, this is a pre-production car, tend to be, and when they give these to the press, they tend to go over them with a fine-tooth comb and make sure they are perfect. But this car does not drive like any Ford that I've ever driven. To me, the closest thing it reminds me of, I'm talking about steering, handling, brake sensitivity, the way the throttle feels on it. Closest thing it reminds me of is a good friend of mine had, I think it was a 2006 Porsche 911 twin turbo. This car feels way too close to that to be comfortable. I mean, it has no business being this good. And it's currently running right now to keep my climate control going because it is hot out here today. And see, charging is terminated for my phone right now because we've been sitting here for a while. But check out this interior. This is probably the best interior of any Ford car I have ever seen. The material choices are really nice. All this is nice padded vinyl. I have this cloth material covering speakers, and it goes onto the dash, and it just carries out and looks really nice. We've got this huge screen that has its pluses and minuses, but we'll cover that a little bit later. And we have the main display screen, and that thing is pretty cool. And looking at it on the camera here, I'm not sure if that's showing up. Looks like we have some little infrared lights or sensors or something. I'm not sure what that's for. You cannot see that with the naked eye, but it is showing up on the camera, so that's pretty neat. But the seats, very, very nice leather. Everything is just super, super nice and quality. And check out this glass roof on this thing. That's a great addition. Something we had in the S197 GT500s. But check it out from the top side. You can't even tell that's glass. It looks like just black painted steel. Really, really nice. This is a candy coat red paint that is very, very nice. This particular version is the first edition. Like I said, this is a pre-production model, so I know it's fairly close to what you'll be getting at the dealerships, but there may be some things that's different. First edition, you know, you get the red brake calipers. Something that is a little bit odd on this is you have this massive panel right here. Basically, that's your whole battery tray is underneath this thing. The steering wheel is super nice, carries that red stitching throughout. Everything is just really, really nice quality in this. And like I said, this is just the best car that I've been in that Ford has built. I'm not saying it's the fastest, I'm not saying it's the most exhilarating. I'm just saying this is the best built car that I have experienced from Ford. Check out that material. That's almost like a carbon fiber woven fabric. It's really nice, just very nice choices on all the materials. Seats are great. Your cup holders here in the back. Charging points all over the place, which is always important. Moving around to the back, one thing, the pony badges are ribbed for her pleasure. Cargo area has lots of space. Got a little storage area under the floor here. That's where your charger would go. Got a 12-volt plug back here. I like how they integrated the sunshade for the cargo area so it goes up with the hatch. I thought that was pretty neat. Hatch kind of reminds me of a Fox body hatch. Fox body hatch never did that, at least not on purpose. Give it a few years and the struts would get weak on them. It's got the frunk, of course. I'll pop that and let you guys take a look. And we have the integrated touch entry combination. The front is kind of weird. It opens, you have to pull this twice, then it opens up like that. Then you got some storage space in here. If you hear it running, that is the AC compressor. Electric, of course, is basically a ductless mini split system on these. Really neat. Clean. This can be basically unbolted. It's just put in with push pin connectors if you want to get that out of the way. So word is the reason this divider is in here is to keep a child from getting in this and getting stuck. That's why they added this too. That was kind of an afterthought, the escape release hatch. And this piece keeps popping out on this thing, but like I said, this is a pre-production model and you have to slam the crap out of it to get the frunk to close. But I chalk that up to it not being a final production version. Got grill shutters down here to bring in cooling air for the HVAC system. Overall, a really, really nice car. And I just wanted to give you guys some of what I think are the highlights and lowlights of the Mach-E. I've had this car for a couple days, got to drive it around, took it to the track. You guys definitely have to check out that video. As you're charging, we charged it with a hybrid F-150 with the power boost feature while we were at the track. That was pretty cool. But just to get started here, what do I think is my #1 surprising happy feature on this particular car? It's way more fun than I thought it was going to be. You know, I was thinking the regular version was just going to be sort of, ho-hum, just an electric car. It's not. This is not the GT version. This is just your standard all-wheel drive version. It has the bigger battery pack, the 88 kilowatt-hour battery pack that the GT will come with, but it doesn't have the higher horsepower, higher torque motors in it. And this thing is surprisingly quick. Like I said, definitely watch that video of us out at Darlington. It's part of the playlist that I've got started here. The link's in the description below. And if you're interested in seeing all this content right now live with all our reviews and everything, the link in the description to svtperformance.com has our full article. Also, if you have any questions about what I'm getting ready to bring up here, post it over on svtperformance.com. That way we can try to get the answers for you. We don't really try to do that much question and answer session stuff in the YouTube comment section. It's not really set up for that, but the forums over at SVTP most certainly are. So join up, head over there, and post your questions there. I'll do my best to answer them for you. So like I said, this thing is way more fun than you think it would be. It's crazy how it launches. It's nuts. I don't know how to describe it other than, have you ever been on like the magnetically launched roller coasters, something like the Maverick that they have at Cedar Point, where it uses electromagnets to launch you to the top of the hill? That's what this thing feels like. It just pins you back in the seat. And it does it in a really spooky way because it's dead silent when you're doing it, unless you turn on the fake engine noises, which we'll show you that in another video. But it's freaky. It's freaky how fast and how silently fast it is. Makes it really, really fun in a way that you wouldn't expect. I'm one of those guys, I like simple vehicles that make loud noises and put you back in the seat that way. Give me a positive displacement blower and a big V8 and I'll be happy. This is really, really fun in a completely different way. That's the only way I can explain it. Don't knock it until you try it. That's all I know. On the downside of that, it being electric, there are times when the juice is not flowing from this substation to your house to charge it. And with limited charging stations, at least here locally for me, it's kind of a pain to get this thing charged up because of the, my house is not set up for the fast charging. So I have to plug it in with a regular 120 volt outlet. And that only charges at a rate of the equivalent of 3 miles per hour. That means 3 miles of range are added to the battery per hour. As it's setting right now, we are 80% battery life and 230 miles of range. So you do the math on that. It takes it forever to charge on a 120 volt plug, just a standard household plug. That's a problem. You know, if you've got a hybrid F-150, you can plug it into that and it charges pretty quickly on that. Or if you have the standalone Ford charger, which if you bought this car and you don't buy that charger and wire it into your house, you're dumb. Just buy it, roll it into your payment, whatever you want to do. They charge like $700–800 for it. Get it. Don't even think about trying to just use the standard one. It's not worth it. Get that thing wired into your house, and then it charges at like the equivalent of 48 miles equivalent charge per hour. If you do that, then you'll be in pretty good shape. It'll charge quickly and get all the range that you're looking for. It's hot as shit out there. We'll sit in the air conditioning for a while. And I got my cheat sheet so we can just go over all the pertinent features right now. But that's just something to think about. You're going to have to plan your trips more than you would if you were just using a standard gasoline powered anything. Doesn't matter what kind of car it is, because there's gas stations everywhere. There's not charging stations everywhere. There's just not. That's the fact of it. Back on a positive note, I touched on this earlier. This is probably the most solid feeling Ford car that I've ever been in. Everything feels really put together well. I mean, everything. It's just dead silent. There's no squeaks, no rattles. The steering is by far the best steering of any Ford car I have ever been in. And like I said, the closest thing I can think of is like a 15-year-old Porsche 911 twin turbo. The steering is literally that good, which is surprising because you have fairly skinny 225 tires all the way around on this. You know, they're good tires. They're Michelin's. They're not rock hard little cheapies like you would see on like a Prius or something like that, but they're more narrow, so they don't use as much energy to keep them rolling. You know, that's a compromise, but really, I mean, every situation I put this car in, it's never spun a tire. It's never slipped a wheel, turned traction control off. It doesn't matter. The all-wheel drive system really works. We had it at Darlington at the drag strip. This thing is freaky consistent on the quarter mile. So like I said, this thing is just really well put together. A downside, who knows how well that's going to last into the future. It's put together well now, but I've been checking out some of the engineering behind this, and specifically, let me get out and I'll show you what I'm looking at. I've cooled off a little bit here. This is just something I'm worried about a little bit going on into the future, because we're starting to see some issues crop up with the S550 Mustangs now that they're getting about 6 years old, where they're sadly starting to fall apart a little bit. You know, lots of just clips broken and things like that. One of the things that Ford has done on this, and it's fantastic engineering and it's great from an assembly point of view of making this car easy to assemble and cheap to assemble, and that makes it less expensive to buy, even though this one I think has a sticker price of $65,000, which is yeah, not cheap. But one of the things they've done on this entire front fascia here, you see all this stuff. I mean, you got all these various sensors, plastic panels, trim panel, badge, these grille shutters, another sensor here, all this stuff, even the headlights, this whole front end. There is zero fasteners, traditional screw threaded fasteners, screws and bolts, none. All these trim pieces are fixed with just plastic connectors, plastic clips, molded into all this and just slapped together. Just push it in, connects. That's great from an assembly point of view. It's much cheaper, it's easier going down the line. But if you ever have to take any of this stuff apart, especially after it's been heat cycled for a couple years, everybody knows those plastic clips break, and that is just going to be a pain. You're going to have to buy new ones, figure out a way to plastic weld a new little clip on, or just deal with it not fitting as well as it did when it was new. That to me is going to be a downside, and you know, I get it. It makes it cheaper and easier to build, but woe is the person who gets it 10 years down the road and has to work on some of that stuff. I wouldn't be looking forward to it. On the positive side though, back in the cabin, this thing is spacious. Plenty of room inside. It feels a little roomier than like a Ford Escape, but not as much width as say a Ford Edge. I don't know, it's kind of a weird size. It's bigger than a Focus for sure, but it's spacious. I wouldn't complain about it. I wouldn't really want to ride in the back for a long distance, but up front, super comfortable. You can actually fit, you know, adult-sized humans in the back seat, and as you saw earlier, plenty of space in the back, plenty of space in the front. You can haul some crap in it, so not bad. Downside though, this is a big complaint for me. And this is not a Ford complaint in general. This is a new cars going forward complaint. And it is with the climate control. As you can see, you've got this huge center stack where you can control pretty much everything in the car. And this is the drive mode selections. You got engage, whisper. We just ride around in unbridled, because if you're going to ride around in anything, it might as well be sport mode. And what's great is it holds that mode even with key off and key back on. It'll hold that. That's great. And unlike a lot of Fords where you have to, I'm gonna go move this thing over so it quits giving me that. Has the inductive charging pad down here, but I guess where it's been sitting there for so long and we've been sitting here not moving, it keeps turning it off. But unlike a lot of Fords where you have to put it in sport mode every single time you start it up, which is a pain, it stays in whatever mode you leave it. That's cool, because unbridled mode, that's where you want to be. And you got your fake propulsion sound. But getting back onto my complaint here, it's with the climate controls. And my complaint is, this is dangerous to me. You have to essentially take your eyes off the road to make sure you hit hit any of the buttons here. So imagine I want to change the fan speed. Look at that icon, is smaller than my fingernail. So you have to hit that and then go up and you can slide your fan speed control wherever you want it to be. But there's no way you can be driving down the road and just hit that. I mean, you're going to have to take your eyes off the road to hit that. Whereas if there were just 3 knobs down here, you could just turn it to whatever it is and you could basically fumble your way through it without having to take your eyes off the road. And that's without even making any larger changes. If you want to do something, you know, more complicated than just turning the temperature up or down, things like that, you've got to actually hit this button, which then brings up this whole display where you can have emergency heat, which, well, Lord, turn that off. It's too damn hot for that. Max air conditioning, you know, all that, change to defrost. But you get this really nice icon view here of the inside of the car. But that's just one of my complaints. This thing, to me, you add all these safety nannies with the lane keeping assist, and which is right here, and the radar controlled cruise control and all that. You add all those features, and then to make it look pretty, you take away simple air conditioning controls and add that in, which to me makes it more dangerous. I don't know. That's just a personal preference of mine, and like I said, that's not a Ford issue. That's every auto manufacturer is doing that now. At least with Ford in their trucks, they're keeping separate button controls, which makes it easier. You get an actual feel of something instead of just a flat screen. Like I said, just something that concerns me a little bit. Moving on, my last complaint, it sort of goes into what we were saying earlier, because I don't want to leave on a bad note, so I'll give you two out the gate here and we'll end on a positive note. My other complaint, like I said, not a Ford complaint, not even about this specific car. I think all the driver aids, like I said, the lane keeping assist, the radar controlled cruise control, all that is making all of us worse drivers. It allows you to be inattentive when you shouldn't be. And, you know, it's not really fair to say it's a complaint about this car, because literally it's a complaint about every new car. But it takes something away, I think, from the driver, and it allows you to be lazier and less attentive behind the wheel. And I'm not a fan of that. But on a positive note, let's end with something good about this car. A neat feature. I don't have a whole lot of electric car experience, so this may not be something unique to Ford. It could very well be in a lot of other vehicles. But you can go through your control settings here, and there's just tons and tons of settings on this. But one of the neat things you can do is do charge scheduling and departure and comfort scheduling. And what I really like about that, if you're in an area where you have peak power rates and things like that, you can set it to not charge when you're getting charged at the yin yang for power, and just charge when electricity is cheaper and off demand hours. But that's not that spectacular. But I think this is the departure and comfort. And basically what that does is, while you're plugged in, if you have a normal 9 to 5 job schedule where you leave the same time every day, you can program this thing every day when you're going to leave. And it will set your climate control, have your cabin cooled off or heated up for you, and it will also condition the battery pack. So if it's cold outside, it will warm the battery pack up while you're plugged in to shore power, and doesn't drain the battery to do that. That, to me, is a really good idea, because it effectively extends your range. It just uses your household shore power that you already have plugged in charging this thing to set your climate the way you want it and get the battery at its optimum temperature to perform. This, I think, is a really neat idea, and it's great to see that Ford integrated that. So that's basically it for my little features walk around video talking about this car. It's really nice. Actually, I've got a few more features I can show you, because just sitting in here, I'm thinking of a few things I haven't shown you yet. And let's take a look in the glove compartment. There's nothing special, decent size. You do have, like we mentioned, the inductive charging pad for your phone, a couple cup holders here, a few USB ports down here, and of course your gear controller, which there's no gears. That's another thing that makes this thing freaky to drive. There is no gears. There's no, it doesn't change gears, it just goes. But I really liked this feature on the console. The armrest lifts up, and now we've shut down because we've just been sitting here for a half hour. I really like this little accordion style folding top. Just rollback top, like a rollback disc. And you got a fairly deep console here with another 12-volt plug. There's plenty of 12-volt and USB plugs, but no 120 AC plugs anywhere to be found. So that's pretty much it. It's a fantastic car, and I'm looking forward to taking you guys for a drive here in a few minutes. So definitely check out svtperformance.com. I have that drive video already up on the site, so if you want to see that, click that link in the description below. And as always, head over there for all the latest news, reviews, and information on your favorite Ford powered vehicles. And like I mentioned before, if you have any questions about this car, post it over on SVTP, because I'm probably not going to get to it in the YouTube comments section, because it'll be lost to eternity. At least if that's answered over on SVTP, people can search it and find it, and it will be there forever, because we control that. And nobody can delete our comments or concerns or other information or your views on this particular car. But take it from somebody who was not expecting this thing to be this good. It's good. Get out and drive one, because that's what I'm getting ready to do. See you next time.